Hello, I'm Binzer Flynn, and welcome to the Book of Flynn, where Raina and I are rewatching Clone Wars and Buffy and then telling each other what we thought about it. It's a magical journey of two GenX geeks. This week we start with Buffy Season 1, Episode 8, I, Robot, followed by Clone Wars Episodes 11 and 12, Dooku Captured, and the Gungan General. If you want to follow the journey from the start, all our old episodes are on our new home on Anchor and also in a playlist on our YouTube. First up, Buffy. Buffy Episode 8, title, I, Robot, You, Jane. And I know you've just been waiting for me to get to this one, just based on the
I
title
love
alone.
this episode. I really do. For so many reasons. Because it's our first Willow-centric episode.
That's true, yes, we were saying we did need one. Well, I can't not do this for the opening of this. Picture it, Italy, 1418. Here's poor hapless Carlo. And this fucking demon out of nowhere. Although I will say it was the great makeup, great prosthetics. It looked like a fucking demon.
This is exactly where all of the budget for the season went, was into this opening season. With this opening scene. I mean, comparatively, let's flash back to the hyenas.
Yeah, you're right. It's worlds apart.
I'm like, is this on the different season? I would think it was season 2 or 3. If I just saw this opening scene.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So, here's a priest, and they're going to banish Moloch the Corruptor, who apparently goes around mesmerizing people and enticing them with love, which I found a funny thing in this episode is, we'll get to that later, but a lot of his appearances didn't match the seductive voice he was using. It was definitely original. Anyway, they're going to bind him with this thing called the Circle of Kahless. I'm wondering if that was a next generation reference to the Klingon hero Kahless, which is spelled differently. But anyway, this spelling of Kahless is how Jenny's Kender spells her name in D&D. So I was like, oh, you're going to bind him in a spell of Kender magic. That sounds like trouble. Anyway, they're going to trap this demon into a book, and they were kind enough to emboss his shrieking face on the cover, which I thought was
nice. They couldn't put "Do not open or read this" on the front.
Or a medieval lock or something. I fucking wrap it up, Barb. I don't know anything. So it ends up in a box and a shipment to Giles. They never actually say where it came from, did they?
That was the thing is, I was like, how did it even get there? Where did he get this from?
It gave the impression it was like a latest shipment from a colleague or something.
Yeah, I want to say Watchers Council. Like, if I had to venture a guess, because that would be where the weird stuff would come from. Also, why would they send that? Why would they open that? Why would they bring it out of the archives? Do they hate Giles that much?
Oh, Book of Moloch, send that to Giles. Get that
the person who said that is the person who wants to be Buffy's new Watcher. They want to have all the glory.
We're in the library, and there was actually other people in the library, which I already get in territory. I'm like, who are you? Get out of here.
Right? You become protective about the library very quickly.
Run Slayer business here. Anyway, we're introduced to, I didn't catch her first name, but Ms. Calendar, which sounds like a Batman villain, who's doing some digitization of the library, which Giles is very against. He's a Luddite. He does not like tech.
And we all had somebody like Fritz in high school, let's be honest.
Oh, yeah, we're going to get to Fritz. Fucking Fritz. So Ms. Calendar is a computer science teacher. Giles don't want no newfangled shit. Yeah, this Fritz guy, he's what I write here. One of the students is all in on the information superhighway of the 90s. And if you ain't jacked in, then fuck you. I noticed Xander, when he's in the scene, is wearing a porn star shirt. It says porn star on it.
No, I missed that completely.
It's
That's
shown
gross.
super briefly. But I saw it, I was like, ugh.
Gross.
So later on, Willow uses a handheld scanner to scan in the demon book.
Okay, just one thing first. I really wanted to shout out the quote, "Giles, if you need me, I'll be back in the Middle Ages." Miss Calendar Singer, did you ever leave?
Yes, that was good.
I really like Miss Calendar just from this scene alone. But yeah, did this also exist? Was this legit 90s tech to have something handheld do it that quickly and that clear? If so, we took a step backwards.
there were handheld scanners. I never actually used one, but I have a hard time believing they worked as fast or efficiently as it's shown on TV, because even tabletop scanners, and the flat ones that we used even recently, are not fast.
No, I was very confused.
I mean, the operating system on the computer was a trip. It was definitely, a Windows 3.1 look-alike. And I recognize that shit.
This was a really long intro into the credit scene. It's not usually this long. It was over 5 minutes.
So, somehow, the scanner has taken the fine runes from the page and put them in the computer, which has let Moloch loose onto the internet. All I can think of is like, man, if he's lucky, that computer's a 486 with like 8 megs of RAM and a tiny hard drive. And he's reliant on modem connections and webcams. I'm like, this guy'd be pretty fucked.
Moloch is just like, oh, what am I doing here?
Seemed to find his footing pretty damn quick.
Yeah.
Willow is seeing a guy online but hasn't met him. This evoked some major 90s PTSD for me and many other people who got into internet relationships, and it caused a lot of trouble.
Can we flash back to Willow's locker? Did you look at Willow's locker? There is a framed picture of her and Giles in her locker.
I missed that. I must have been looking down taking notes at that moment. I got to start pausing more.
Along with Mayhem Festival is a heavy metal festival, as well as an LA rock band poster. So she's into the heavy metal.
Willow's a metalhead.
Wait a minute, how did I miss this? But yeah, because I actually did some research and went and looked up. I was like, what's the Mayhem Festival? And it is a it's a heavy metal festival.
My apartment in college was 95 or so, and we were one of the first people around to get our own personal use internet. So everyone came to our apartment to use the internet, and of course, half of us got into conversations with people online, and it was always just a big mess. So anyway, props to Buffy for saying that you need to be a little cautious. This guy could be saying, and this is a problem we have to this fucking day, 30 years later. They're not who they say they are.
And it's like, if you don't know what the person looks like, that's even weird by today's standards, because sending pictures is so easy. It was weird, this weird little window of space where anonymity was so easily obtained. And now it's, it's the same thing. Like, people will clone other people's profiles and stuff, but it's so much easier to catch than it used to be.
We're just sort of seeing the influence this creature's having on other people's internet experiences. And one kid's sitting at the laptop, and he's saying his kid's report got turned into a pro-Nazi report. And I'm like, awesome. It's been on the internet for 5 minutes and it's already a Nazi. Great.
In the previous scene where Moloch is looking up, or Malcolm is, because we're not supposed to know that's the same, but it's very obvious right away. Malcolm is searching up Buffy, and when he goes and searches her on the office screen, she was a junior, and it said her birthday was one date, October 24th, 1980. And then with one absence, which I account to the second day where she jumped over the fence and skipped off school to go rescue Jesse.
Oh, wow. That's funny. I wonder if we'll see an updated absence count at some point in the future. That's funny.
When it flashes onto Fritz's screen, suddenly she's a senior and her birthday's in May. Yeah, because it's 10/24/80 and she's a junior. And then it flashes to Fritz's screen and it says 5/6/79 senior.
What grade are they actually in then? Junior.
They're sophomore
11,
right now. So they basically messed the entire thing up.
I was gonna say, if they started her in like the second to last high school grade, like, we got to get a lot of monster killing in the next year and a half.
And she has a 2.8 GPA on a 4.0 scale, which isn't bad.
Better than me. Quite predictably, Xander is jealous of Willow's internet boyfriend, and Buffy calls him on it.
Is Xander's shirt inside out in this scene?
No, all I noticed is he wasn't wearing the porn star shirt.
That might have been the shirt. They might have just made him turn it inside out so he didn't have the...
They caught it too late and it made it into the show.
The jealousy is gross. for Xander. It sure is.
Yeah, it's typical. What about me, male possessiveness? Meanwhile, Fritz is cutting himself and repeating, he's jacked in. He's jacked in. I'm like, look how the internet destroys people's lives.
An E letter. It gets referred to as an E letter. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going back real far.
Killed me. She's talking to this other guy, Dave, who's also under Moloch's influence, who he looks like his own brain hard drive is being overwritten by Moloch. He just sort of tuned out. Willow's obsession and defense of her internet flame, a scene I've seen a million times. When a friend's went too deep to see you that they're in trouble and you're trying to talk them out of it, and there's just no doing it. Buffy follows Days in glasses and a trench coat, as she joked a moment before. Doesn't stand out at all. To a fenced-off area with scientists and security, which every small town has. Another pocket dimension of Sunnyvale?
Yes, because it's like CRD. They...
Wait, is it? I always forget. Is it Sunnydale or Vale? Because the other one's
Sunnydale.
Okay, so Sunnyvale is Trailer Park Boys. Okay, I'll try to keep that straight. Hey, that'd be a pretty good mashup. Trailer Park Boys wander. Holy fuck, Bubs, you see her kick that guy in the face? The cyber demon tells Fritz to kill Buffy for stooping, to which he responds, party.
Brought to you by Adore Delano. Party.
Willow is sexting with Malcolm Moloch, who that's what I started calling him now, Malcolm Moloch. And her suspicions mount as he seems to know too much about Buffy.
Yeah.
About her 2 birthdays and what fucking grade
and that she got kicked out of school.
Got that right anyway. Meanwhile, Giles and Ms. Calendar continue their sexual tension and reveals that the fine runes are missing off the demon book. Giles often has, when he finds out something shocking, he has to internalize his, oh fuck, oh shit. Oh,
this is where I learned this. This is the, oh yeah, okay, cool. And they're just like, did you just not hear me? Yeah, no, I'm fine. And meanwhile, in my head, I'm literally just screaming at the top of my lungs.
Outside, you're like, right, well, I'm going to have to deal with this.
I've got told that I spiral internally, and I take that as a big compliment because I don't want to make that anybody else's scene. Just, no one needs to witness that.
Something Ms. Calendar does in this episode is she calls Giles by his name, which I always forget, which is Rupert. Right, so I'm gonna be calling him Rupert more often now.
It's Giles, man. It's Giles.
Dave feigns an apology, which I thought was genuine, but it isn't. He lures Buffy into a trap in the girls' locker room. And Fritz sets up some real spy versus spy water and electricity shit here. It's like he got really kind of...
Maybe they've seen what she's capable of, and they're like, man, we can't try to take her down by ourselves. Like, that's just not going to work very well. Like, did you guys see her at the Bronze? I heard she took out some people at the Bronze. Is when Willow and Malcolm are talking, does anyone else type what they're typing, say what they're typing out loud as they're typing it? Is that normal?
It felt to me like she had intentionally activated a text-to-voice feature on the computer so she could feel like she was talking to him. That's how it struck me.
Weird.
So Dave argues with the demon in the computer. So the demon writes Dave's suicide note in real time, and Fritz looms in the background. I enjoyed how Buffy's first concern about being electrocuted was how her hair was.
Yep. Best hair ever. The tech debate between Ms. Calendar and Giles is hitting real different post 2020. Because everybody used to post everything. And then afterwards we're all like, no, everything needs to be off the internet. We need to back up. This was a mistake. This is the line. This is where we messed up. We need to back up a little bit. You think that knowledge should be kept in these carefully guarded repositories where only a handful of white guys can get at it. Boom. That was a big sentence for the 90s.
Giles tells how Moloch manipulates his victims with promises of love, and they figure out that the fine runes have been scanned onto a 46 Windows 3.1 machine. All I could think of was, get me a big fucking magnet. We'll take care of this guy.
Anyone recognize this? A book? Ooh, I knew that one. Giles, I could feel him being like, I miss Willow. Right now, I just miss Willow.
Yes, Buffy tries to delete Willow's files, which is hilarious to watch, to try to kill the cyber demon. And then his pixely face fills the whole screen and basically says, fuck off.
Pretty much.
All if that had happened to me in the 90s, all I would have thought was, how did he get this great full screen resolution video onto this little computer?
Three chimpanzees with zero training stand around a computer.
So Buffy enters the scary computer lab where all the monitors flick on, which means some guy was ready with a power bar.
Yeah. How did she not see him?
You don't see hanging Dave there until he comes into shot, but I would think I would notice that from the hallway.
Yeah.
I have a note here. This is the old IT guy, and he says the first stop should have been the fucking server room. Why aren't you in there yanking cords out? So over at Willow's house, Moloch is sending her emails quite insistently. He wants to meet. The doorbell rings, and there's Freaky Fritz with his bottle of chloroform, so he kidnaps her.
He's going to make a really good serial killer.
So this was surprising to me. At the library, Giles tries to take Ms. Calendar into his confidence about what's really going on, saying how crazy it's going to sound, and she already knows. And I was like, okay, what? She's in the biz. She's a techno-pagan, which I don't know if that was a term floating around in the 90s. Somehow I missed that one, but I was like, techno, okay, sure.
So the techno-pagan happens to know about 15th century Italian demons. This is checking a lot of Giles's boxes right now.
So is she like an early version of like Supernatural Wikipedia or something? Like,
Oh no, I found that one was a bit of a stretch. Like, you know about these, but then do you know about Moloch the Corruptor?
yeah, she knew instantly about it.
I don't know.
It was convenient, but Buffy and Xander arrive at Willow's house looking for her, and I love Willow's calling out for her parents in the previous scene. I'm just like, where the fuck are they? Like, there's nobody in this house. The door's unlocked.
Yeah.
At this point, I stopped watching for a second to write down a quick prediction, or what I would have done was if he was freed up by scanning the runes off of the page, couldn't we get him trapped by reprinting the runes with a dot matrix printer or something?
By the time those words printed out, he'd have like all the nuclear codes in the world.
Buffy's fighting them. What's that sound? We're just doing the ceremony.
You automatically default to the Taika voice when you do that. Yep.
Did I?
Moloch versus Malcolm is like all the catfishing on Tinder.
So back over at the CRD lab, Buffy checks in with Giles. She and Xander are going to go break into the secret lab. And then we're revealed. Then there's this sudden jarring reveal of this Predator Minotaur Klingon Robocop cosplay. And I'm looking at it like, yeah, I could probably build that. Yeah, I mean, I will admit, the suit is not bad, but the helmet was kind of cool. Moloch revels in his new physical form. He's having so much fun, he just kills Fritz. Mm-hmm. Buffy vaults the fence. Vander falls on his nuts, which I thought, again, it's a good contrast of the Buffer's prow, the Slayer's
prow.
The Buffer's good example of the Slayer's prowess compared to a Claude like Xander.
Moloch, when he killed Fritz, did all of Southern California a favor by having yet another budding serial killer in the midst.
Honestly, yeah, Moloch did us a favor. I feel like if he hadn't, corrupted Fritz, it would have happened on his own eventually anyway. So good job there.
Because you didn't see Dave going, jacked in.
Giles, or Rupert, as he is to me now, works with Calendar Girl to redo the containment ceremony. So they figured out what they got to do. I even in this supernatural universe, I would be like, this is not going to fucking work. Like, let's get a gun. Like, so there's a long shot taken from like a mezzanine or something, looking down at Buffy and Xander as they run in, and Buffy runs up to and fucking lays out the security. Like, it's a good, you get to see the whole thing. She just runs up and punches him in the face. It's fantastic. Based on how evil the internet is now, I think Moloch won, however this episode ends.
Right? They kind of forget for a moment that CRD, a computer software programming, wouldn't have computerized security.
Buffy and Xander get caught, and Moloch tries to gas them. Meanwhile, he's still continuing to try to seduce Willow, but she's onto him now. She's against him. She's fighting back. Moloch goes to snap Willow's neck when the ceremony at the library actually begins to work and Moloch starts fucking defragmenting and some shit. And then the best part, and this is the part when I walked into the room and you were watching it, Buffy runs in, sees this thing, doesn't take a minute to fucking think about what the fuck she's looking at. She ninja kicks it from across the room. Clang! What word did you use?
Boing! Just bounced right off.
It was incredible.
It was really good physical comedy. I enjoyed that moment.
It was. Xander punches out the scientist. One for him.
Yeah, to punch someone. Yay!
The ceremony contains Moloch to his suit, so he's purged from the internet. So now he's stuck in his suit. And he bursts through the wall like Kool-Aid Man and fucking bitch slaps Xander.
Did you also find the acting in this scene really, like, hokey? Like, they come out and they go, oh, let's go this way. And then Xander just, like, quickly trots out of the way like he was trying to, like, you could tell it was for a purpose and not just to leave the room. Yeah, it was really weird. And then oh yeah.
Willow, she fucking beats on him with a fire extinguisher and then gets thrown across the room onto Xander. Buffy tricks Moloch into punching an electrical box, which I saw what she was doing immediately. Because, I mean, what else are you going to do? It's like a robot guy. We got to short him out. But it works. Moloch is destroyed, or is he? I'll tell you, this thing comes back later on when internet technology starts to, well, you're making a face now. Oh, God, he's going to see Moloch again, are we? Anyway, back at school.
With no mention of the suicide that took place in the classroom or the murder of one of their students. No mention. Just another day at the office.
Yep. No one even brings it up. Just another day at the school. Giles reveals he doesn't like computers because they don't smell. But he's kind of right on that. He says books are musty with rich and texture. But he says a quote, something here about, info on the internet has no texture. It's just delivered coldly, often without context. So yeah, it was a very, very prophetic bit there by Giles. Yep. My note with Giles and Miss Calendar, these two are definitely going to do it. We'll see. Is she going to be a recurring character? Maybe better not tell me. Spoilers. The three heroes commiserate about their ex-crushes, a demon robot, a vampire, and a giant praying mantis. Nowhere to go but up. And then the show just ends there. It ends on a real bummer.
We're doomed. Yes.
It's like we're doomed.
Yep. Just pretty much the takeaway feeling you need to take away from that. So it's good.
Oof, these guys, they need a better win, a personal win. They all need a personal win. My summary is: I wish Cyber Moloch was all we had to worry about on the internet now.
I know.
It could be doing. I mean, he might be out there.
Moloch or Trump? Which one would you rather follow on Twitter? Because Moloch has a Twitter handle.
I don't see Moloch trying to sell me shitty NFTs with his head photoshopped onto a cowboy from Getty Images. Moloch 2024.
Episode 11, Dooku captured. I wonder what happens in this episode is my first thoughts about this.
I gave it away.
Yeah, these episode titles don't do much for the mystery.
I think they're meant to be like newspaper headlines, like, landed on the moon or Hitler dead or
okay.
Like I just now realized it in this moment, but it kind of makes sense. Going with the recap seems like a newsreel, right?
Yeah. So the winding path to peace is always a worthy one, regardless of how many turns it takes. It's a weird quote. I don't really know how to feel about that one. Don't have any thoughts about that one. Obi-Wan is going after the missing Annie. Annie, are you okay? Are you okay, Annie?
I'm surprised it's taken that long to do that joke.
Right? Well, this one was very fitting because they literally said it in the episode.
This episode starts already in progress. I felt like we almost missed an episode. I mean, I know they got to keep things moving along and set the stage really quick, but it did feel like we came in halfway through this
It
already.
did because I actually went back and was like, did I click the wrong episode? I had to
Right?
go back and look and I was like, no, this is oh okay. But I guess that they didn't want to spoil the surprise that they immediately gave away as soon as Obi-Wan just waltzes in. But I'm getting ahead of
He
myself.
really did walk. He really did.
He did. He basically moonwalked past the 631s. Can tell because they have absolutely no idea what's going on. And the only one that has a clue is kind of like, "Ah, ow, ow," and just keeps going. You're not the prisoner I am looking for. That was a nice little twist. I enjoyed that line. Yeah.
Yeah, that's directly related to Kenobi
Yep.
lore in the future.
Yeah, I liked that. And Annie is so ungrateful for this planned escape from this planned capture. I don't really. You can tell this isn't Gloomy's idea because he's mad that he's not making the plans, but I don't understand.
Oh, did he actually get captured, or was the capture planned? Was Anakin like planted in
Yeah.
there to be saved?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, they said it in the first bit. It was
Oh.
there was basically like, oh, you had to look like you couldn't have your lightsaber. Sorry, you had to look like you were all peaceful and stuff when you got captured.
Oh, right, of course.
So you can get on the same ship as Dooku and then we can go and crash. And it's weird when I was like, Dooku's captured. Who's Dooku? Because I'm so used to calling him Chocula.
Oh boy, you're gonna be ruined after 7 seasons of this.
Oh man, I'm not gonna know who anyone is. I'm gonna have my own like Fisher Price version of Star Wars.
There's gonna be a time when like episode 2 or something's on in the background, and there's gonna be a room full of nerds, and you're gonna like, oh, Count Chocula. Everyone's gonna be like, what? And I'm just gonna.
But
nod.
everyone's gonna get it as soon as they look back at him. There's just
Yeah.
like he's a vampire.
Did it sound like they made it sound like that without the lightsaber the Jedi were totally useless, which I found. I know it's kind of a sticking point with the plot for this episode, but
Yeah.
it's like, Jedi can do a lot without a lightsaber. Come on.
At least you're the master of getting caught. Was a nice little jab from Obi-Wan there. I enjoyed that.
Bickering episode.
Yeah. Walks directly into Chocula's yoga studio.
Yeah, I know. It's almost like they expected that to be a different room, and like, oh, he's right here.
Yeah, Count Chocula, and has a slide directly from his master's section of his. He has the best. He's the guy to host the parties.
Dooku?
Yeah. I would let him host all the parties because you never know if you're sitting on a slide or if you're sitting on a couch.
He just says, well, it's time to go, and then he disappears through a hole in the floor through a 200-foot slide. That thing looked like didn't look like smooth metal, like, oh, it's grinding my pants off.
This is where the legend of vampires disappearing came from. Count Chocula started here.
It was low tech, too. It wasn't like an escape pod. It was just a hole in the floor and a slide.
I loved it. It was very 90s. Very 90s, like, going through the haunted houses and stuff with the chair. I don't remember where that was. What show am I thinking of? Maybe it's Harry Potter. I don't know. Annie has a turn on the slide. That's all he wanted was he's like, well, I gotta go do that now.
I'm doing
Yeah,
that.
and Obi-Wan's like, children, and just kind of goes on about his day. Chocula shoots up the Force lightning and escapes into a ship, which I admit is a very cool ship. I like it.
The Solar Sailor?
Yeah, I like it.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
It was in episode 2 as well. We got to see it in live action. It's a cool idea.
The lights at the back of the Separatist frigate look like a smiley face.
I see faces and afterburners and shit, too. That's the Ghost and the Rebels show is going to drive you fucking crazy for that.
Yeah. And we get a shot into Chocula's ship, and he, crashes onto Vancor, which I was like, is this where the Rancors came from? Uh-oh.
Oh, they missed a chance there. A Rancor.
I mean, I guess that's what you could call the Gundarks that we get into here in a minute. Obi-Wan leaves the beacon, the Separatist beacon, on the ship when they go up and they're like, huh, this must be a homing beacon. And then Obi-Wan just walks away and he's pondering to himself. And Annie's like, no? Okay.
Kenobi seemed pretty sedate in this episode. It's like he just smoked a booger and he's just decided to fuck with Anakin all day. Where's your lightsaber, Anakin? Oh, well, that creature's attacking you. I suppose I'll help. Maybe. Oh, side note, the Gundark creatures, they I don't think we ever see them, but they're mentioned in episode 2 where Obi-Wan says, oh, I saved you from Gundarks. I don't know if they mean that specific one or not, but my point here is that Gundarks were mentioned in Empire Strikes Back when Luke gets in from the cold and Han goes in and says, you don't look too bad to me. You could pull the ears off a Gundark. So that's from old school.
Nice. Obi-Wan leaves the beacon, and I have, why am I agreeing with Gloomwalker more lately? Like, there's just weird things in this episode where Obi-Wan seems really stunned. Like, he doesn't seem like he's really
stoned.
Did he have a rendezvous with General Wake and Bake? He just got some of his supply and nicked it off the ship when they were going after him last time. Got his stash.
Spacesuit was full of fucking weed smoke on the way over.
They are in the cave and rock slide, like a cave in comes down. I couldn't figure out the words for like a cave in until partway through, and I was like, oh, they're in a cave. I get it. It's a cave in. Okay, right. Yes, that's the word. I was like, I had a rock slide gets clocked with rocks. Like, I was trying to come up with something here. I just was dancing around the word for about a half an hour.
Clocked with rocks.
And Chocula steals Annie's lightsaber.
Yeah, he really plucked it off him there.
Yeah. Obi-Wan's, they get up and Annie's like, oh, it's, around here somewhere. It got knocked out of my hand. And Obi-Wan goes, huh, too bad you didn't, still have it or whatever. But his is malfunctioning because it got it got clocked with a rock.
He was slapping that lightsaber like it was an old Duracell flashlight from the 80s. I like that. I could practically hear the D batteries rattling around inside it. It occurs to me that Anakin loses his lightsaber fairly often. He must have like the most default. That must be the default training saber. He's like, yeah, I don't need a different style. Just give me that one again, because it keeps losing the fucking things.
You know what would really work? Retractable cords.
Magnet gloves. I don't know. Something.
Right. So Obi-Wan is just chilling while he's going around to while he's running from this Gundark, and he's like, oh, I think he likes you. Yeah, just working on getting this together, just kind of doing my, yeah, no, you're good. He's like in the background. I had Men in Black flashbacks where he's like, oh yeah, you got this. Yeah. And then he's just like in the background, helping this woman alien give birth or whatnot.
He's Tommy Lee Jones in this situation. You got it, Slick.
Oh, I miss Tommy Lee Jones.
He did seem pretty cavalier, though.
Yeah, I miss Tommy Lee Jones. He did seem pretty cavalier.
I liked when Josh... Did you see the new one where Josh Brolin did young Tommy Lee Jones? He does a really
No, I didn't.
And he nailed the impression in one word. They're sitting in the car and the other guy's saying like, blah, blah, blah. And he just looks at the camera and goes, all right. And he just does a perfect Tommy Lee Jones. It's like, that's off the Brolin, man. It was good.
I miss Tommy Lee Jones. He was one of my favorites in the, like, all the movies. I just loved all of them.
He was, I think him and Sam Jackson were legally required to be in 2 out of 3 90s movies. And like Harrison Ford did the rest.
Yeah. Then Gundark gets a poor rock to the face because Obi-Wan has centered his chill and his chi. He centered the chi and chill and decided to send this rock. I got there! And decided to send this rock into the Gundark's face. And I'm like, Mama Gundark, no.
I felt bad for the Gundark. I mean, at one point, Anakin's even like, maybe this will kill it. I'm like, you guys are in its house.
Yeah,
assholes.
Get out. How would you feel if somebody busted into your Jedi room?
Caved your roof in.
Right? Like, screw off. Mama's just trying to protect her babies. Get out of here. Gets a rock to the face and caved in on the mama, but they were like, I thought that they killed it. I was really mad for a minute. Chocula arrives at Florum with the pirates that he had met previously, and they're, basically going, you look expensive. This could be good.
Hondo Onaka. Get used to this guy.
I didn't know his name until the second part that we were about to watch because it was in a recap, and I just had main pirate, space
Yeah, I don't think
Blackbeard.
they revealed his. They didn't reveal his name or didn't say it out loud until then. You're
Yeah.
right. I was waiting for it and I didn't hear it until then.
So they get to Florum and oh no, his sabers have been lifted and he gets mistaken for a Jedi. I really thought he was just gonna force kill everybody right there. He's like, yeah, right, and just goes and squishes everybody and then calls it a day.
That I don't know why he didn't. I mean, he's a Darth. He could have done that. Like, imagine Vader in that situation. In the comic, he was, and he says, "We have you surrounded," and he goes, "By dead men." Like, he could have.
Yeah, he literally could have just like force electrocuted everybody there and just chain reaction called it a day. It just, I don't know. Him and Obi-Wan, like, I don't really understand. Did they really have to dumb everyone down this much in order to make Jar Jar look competent? Because it still didn't work, by the way. This moment with Count Chocula and Yondu Hondo there, he is Wait, what?
Yondu
Yeah,
Hondo. Wait till I tell Christ.
Yondu Hondo. So he gets there and he's like, big mistake. Huge. Like it was definitely like a pretty woman moment. Like you're going to live to regret this. The leader is smart. If separatists will pay a pretty penny, they won't. They'll just literally go in and kill everybody. Look at what they just did to Viceroy. Did Count Chocula really think that they were going to go to the separatists? Viceroy, they lost like half of the base. So I found that the leader was really smart, which ends up being Hondo. The separatists won't pay for any rescue whatsoever. They'll like Viceroy, they basically just went in and killed him. So they're smarter to go to the Republic because the Republic is literally like, okay, yeah, we'll go in and we're gonna take them off your hands and then we'll call it a day. Like they're not gonna go in and conquer them and then take them anyway. So
Yeah, Hondo knew the Republic would deal. I thought it was pretty smart leadership on his
yeah,
part.
I agreed with a lot of stuff that Hondo did in this episode. Oh, not all of it, obviously, but although I can understand from a pirate's point of view, why turn down a good opportunity. Meanwhile, back in the cave, Thing 1 and Thing 2 are trying to break their way out. They managed to cause a giant toxic gas leak and almost die to be rescued by Ahsoka!
Yep.
Was that force power that she used to blow that away? Or did they have a bomb? Or did they have like explosion?
I had the impression the clones blew it open, but it just felt like an explosion to me.
Yeah, I got that, and that's the only reason why I questioned it, because I was like, if that was Ahsoka, then she is a lot stronger than both of you guys. So it just it really drew into question, like, what is happening? Is everybody just batteries a little drained today?
This was one of the first real moments that when she got them out of there, Ahsoka felt like she was the scolding teacher and they were the kids got caught fucking around.
Yeah, except they turn it around and the masculinity, my little Padawan. That is a lot of words for thank you.
Yeah.
Both of them too. Like even Obi-Wan's like, "Oh, yeah, we would have had that." Okay, smoke another.
Yep, they were done. They were fucking done.
Yeah, little Padawan. And Obi-Wan is the grandparent when their child is dealing with the attitude from their own kid. It's like, karma. And he's just sitting back and watching it because Ahsoka's trying to tear a rifle strap off of Anakin right now. So they're negotiating back over on Vancor with no Rancor. We've got the Hondo negotiating with the Republic, the Jedi Council rather, for Count Chocula. How much are they willing to pay for that sweet cereal and that secret recipe? Apparently 1 billion credits in spice.
It seemed to me the Republic had no problem laying its hand on a large amount of spice, too. It's like they just had it. Some senators like, oh, I got plenty in my garage.
Yeah, I had a question about that because I was like, where did the Jedi suddenly get 1 million credits worth of spice.
I mean, there's always been a lot of controversy about what spice is and if it's completely illegal or like if it's refined into actual medical stuff, and if it's used in a different form, it can be like narcotic.
Maybe they use it for like Jedi meditation. Because, throughout all of our own cultures and histories, we've had people who breathe in the good smoke before they go and have a trip off in the spirit world. Like that is documented throughout history. So it could be something like that too. They could just be like, go to the kitchens, grab the stuff.
Explain why Kenobi's all fucked up today.
Yeah, he had a little bit too much. He's coming off of the spice from the meditation. He's like, man, that was a good meditation session. And that's why Yoda is green and cannot speak properly, because he hit the spice one too many times. See, this whole theory is just locking into place. So while they're negotiating, they're like, well, before we give you guys all of this spice, our reserve stock, it's good for the winter, how about you show us that Chocula's actually still alive and not in your cereal bowl? And they're like, well, here's his lightsaber. And Yoda knows that lightsaber. Faux show. That he's like, okay, well, we'll send some representatives to verify that he's alive. Sure, let's send more hostages. Yeah, that sounds about right. Obi and Gloomy, they go off to verify that they do have Chocula, and they have metal detectors. Metal detectors.
They stipulated that the Jedi not be armed, which is fine because they're the only two Jedi that fucked up and lost their lightsabers within an hour of each other.
Right? One's broken. They're like, yeah, we'll go. It's not like we have to leave it on the ship. And they're escorted to the Techno Cantina, which I enjoyed this music a lot more than I enjoyed the Jizz Whalers.
The Weequay banquet, yeah, the music sounded very East Indian to me. And
loved it.
The accents of all the characters, they're actually all over the place. Like one guy, sounded Australian, or one guy sounded New Zealand, which makes sense.
Yep.
But yeah, just there's a ton of different accents. So they don't seem to, at least not that I could tell, pigeonhole the Weequay accent into any one thing.
Yeah, it seems like a true conglomeration of that species from all different areas of the planet.
You see a lot of Weequay stereotypically in underworld jobs. Like Luke knocked a few of them off Jabba's skiff in Return of the Jedi. Like they're known for being like thugs and henchmen and shit.
Well, they look like they wouldn't be out of place in the Beetlejuice movie. In the waiting room, like if they were just filled the waiting room of the afterlife reception area, yeah, I'd believe it. The drunk chicken monkey, what is that?
So glad you asked. That is called a Kowakian monkey lizard, and you might have seen that in Return of the Jedi as well. He's sitting on Jabba's pedestal. They're annoying little alien creature that's been around since the early 80s.
That was a creature. I was like, they're getting that thing drunk. It's like a monkey bird parrot chicken. So Gloomwalker is almost shot for clocking his lightsaber and trying to get it back. Because the guy has it. I'm assuming that was his.
Yes, I believe it was.
And so he's almost shot for it. He's like, excuse me, like, that's mine. Can I have that, please? You're not supposed to have that. And they go and they look at Count Chocula, and are his nuts roasting on an open fire? Like, what is that glowy ball thing down there? Like, what is that?
I don't know. It's magic energy. Does whatever you need it to, I guess.
Okay, because is it like...
Seems like a lot of effort to power a fucking levitation thing when you could just throw them in a fucking cell. Like,
yeah, like a ball sizzler. I didn't really get that was going for. So Chocula is getting all sparky. He's ticked off when he's in that thing. There's just like electricity that's just buzzing all around him when he's in the containment beam, I guess. They're walking through and they're talking about, okay, like, you can't trust these pirates. You don't know what they're going to do. And there's in the background a Jawa takes one to the face and gets shot across the frame, and then the other two get in a fight, and this is in the background while they're talking.
I missed that.
It was so good. Oh, wow. I had to stop and rewind because I just saw this Jawa flying across in the background. And I'm like, what is happening? So they're having a Norse-like celebration. Like this reminded me of Thor when they were doing their post-battle celebrations.
Seems fitting. Piratey types be all very raucous and unruly.
I didn't really have a lot for this one. It was a lot of like action and not a lot of stuff to riff. Don't worry, episode 12 is coming.
Well, don't stop now.
The Gungan General. Gah!
We just did a Jar Jar episode. Come on.
Literally. Another one. This makes about as much sense as 2 Xander-centric episodes in a 13-episode season. Joss. Self-insert much. Anyways, we'll get there. Failure with honor rather than succeed on fraud. By fraud.
I tell that to this world's capitalist society.
Tell that to this entire episode. Hondo, Annika, which I thought was a cool name. Annie and Annie. Annie squared, if you will. I was agreeing basically with Hondo in this scene when he's talking about his, no, we're gonna go to the nicer side. We go to the ones that we know won't blow us up. And so he's sending his right-hand man off to meet with the senators. However, number 1 has other ideas. And so he consults with number 2. And number 2.
I don't actually know who you're talking about there.
Hondo is talking to his right-hand man, and his right-hand man wants to double-cross him and steal the spice.
Okay, right. Okay, I thought we were still talking about Jedi or something. Okay, I'm with you.
Nope. So
I believe his name is Turk.
Okay, I'm gonna call him number 1 because that's literally how I've referred to them. Although I think I mixed them up partway through because I actually couldn't keep them straight. So number 1 tells number 2 to force the ship down and take the spice for themselves, and just say everyone died and the spice was. By the time, Hondo realizes what's going to go on, they're already going to be away and halfway to the black market to sell it. Why, in God's name, did they send Jar Jar again to something?
He's really working that friendship with Padme for political influence.
Wow. I mean, why? Oh.
I did like this Karras guy, though. He's, oh, fuck, what's the name? He's,
got 3 eyes, I think.
Yeah, they're from Malastare. I can't remember if they have a different name than that at the moment. But anyway, I liked him because he seemed to be a kind of guy to get things done. And, as soon as Bink started fucking up, he's like, sit down and stop screwing around. Like, he seemed like a pretty solid guy.
Yeah, I liked him. Jar Jar somehow messes up. I looked down for a second to write that number 2 was using the ship that they transported Count Chocula to the... where he was arrested or taken capture.
Yeah, the pirates seem to use like a flying saucer type
The
ship.
Star Wars Enterprise is kind of how I referred to this.
It does have that look when you look at it the right way.
Yeah. Because it's got like the little lower part and then it's got, So it's kind of like a prototype for that. Jar Jar somehow ends up in the cockpit of this clone transport ship, distracting everyone, gets shot, they end up crashing. Why do they take him anywhere?
Seriously, why don't they just put him back in the embassy on Naboo or something?
Right? Like, stick him somewhere where he can get ample water and he's away from everyone.
Well, I mean, in the long game, it could be argued Palpatine keeps him around because he's a useful idiot. And it proves pretty fucking useful in episode 3.
He is a Sith Lord. A sneaky Sith Lord. Yeah. We flash over to the trio. The 3 Stooges are in the...
Oh, man. Immediately I was like, oh, we're in for fucking shenanigans. Look at this setup. Come on.
Yeah, they're all tied together. We've got 2 Jedi and a Sith are tied together in a prison cell. Count Chocula, in perfect fashion, is thinking about food. Can't argue with him there. I would want the cheese too, and the cheese knife. The cheese knife seems like it would be useful. And it is. Count Chocula is flexing his muscles and Obi-Wan's actually like, okay, I'm impressed. You got it out. You literally knifed the lock.
My favorite line in that moment was, Anakin, control your insolence. Making fun of both Anakin and Dooku at the same
Yeah.
time.
It's like the extra parent. Mom, can I do that now? And then like they basically repeat it. Number two goes to tell number one that, oh, there's survivors. I guess we could just forget this and get out of here before we die at the hands of Hondo because this got screwed up. Peace. So rest in peace, Senator Karras.
Yeah, killed him and the pilots.
Yep.
Not fucking around.
Yep. That's what happens when you bring Jar Jar anywhere.
People die.
We change scenes, and the trio is trying to escape, and they're still all tied together. So he's like, oh yeah, no, I definitely know it's this way. Opens it up, and there's just a room full of pirates. So next scene is they literally just get dropped back in their cell, and they're like, well, this is embarrassing. My bad. I had to agree with them. Why were they listening to us? Because they were hoping his self-serving attitude would be enough, but he's an idiot. He maxed himself out on that knife lock trick.
I thought it was very convenient that cheese knife worked as a perfect key.
Right?
Jam it in there, wiggle it around the force, it'll open.
Yeah, it's like a hot wiring a car. Back at the ship, is there somebody voicing Jar Jar different in this episode? When he's talking low, I barely recognize the voice.
In the cast listing, it is not Ahmed Best who did the voice in this. It was a guy called B.J. Hughes.
Oh.
So there was a different voice. It was very close, but there was definitely a bit of a tonal change there.
So they're all talking about how the ranking member is actually Jar Jar. Great.
He is now.
Awesome. Obi-Wan mind tricks that the guard to open the door and go drinking.
It was an easy sell.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, you're right. I do want to do that. He didn't actually do mind tricks. He actually just wanted to go drinking.
You're right. He probably showed up at the end of everything fucking hungover. What happened?
He's drinking.
Where have you
He's
been?
drinking alone in the bar while everybody's fighting outside. He's like, oh, wow. Singing along to the music at the space cantina.
He's getting the monkey lizard drunk.
Yeah, it's just him and the monkey lizard and the bartender. Jar Jar has good instincts with the animals and stuff. He does seem really in tune to the creatures. I feel like that's a lot of where his, like, Sith theory or not, there's no way that he's not at least force sensitive to an unconscious degree.
Could be, yeah. He certainly displays, some animal knowledge here. Like he did lead his unit, and combined with the clone guy whose name I didn't actually catch, they did pretty good.
Yeah, and he had good instincts. He was like, well, while the animals say it's fine, and that is usually, the sign of, well, if the animals are fleeing, then we need to go.
Exactly. Yeah.
They go to jump up because they see all of the acid shooting rhinos, elephant things, running away. And Jar Jar gets saved by his Avril Lavigne tie.
I knew you were going to mention that.
Because I forgot until that moment that he looked like a 14-year-old girl at an Avril Lavigne's concert in 2002. The fact that he's like, oh, once he gets out of there, he's like, oh, we got a ride, don't worry. And then suddenly has all of these acid elephants are like, yeah, cool, hop on, dude. How? How is nobody questioning this at this point? Is that why Yoda keeps him around? Maybe he's maneuvering it to be like, I'm going to keep an eye on this guy because Force is strong with this one, but he's way too dangerous to know that.
Made a note that at one point, with all these deals going awry and stuff, Hondo laments that there's no honor to be found in this galaxy at war. Which, again, pirates can be honorable. Very much so.
Yeah, not number 1 and number 2, obviously.
Oh, when when number 1 and number 2 Weequay guys went out to chase down the ship earlier to check on things, I noticed they on their swoop bikes they had like mud flap girls.
Oh,
like
I that.
pin-up girls. And then there was a girly poster on the garage wall in the background.
Oh, I
So
missed
it's
that.
little-
That's cool. The trio are making their way through the complex, and the banter between these three, they're like making old man jokes with Count Chocula, and it's
I thought the Jedi were being quite catty
hmm,
with Dooku. Like they're making fun of him that he was older and slower and shit. And I'm like,
yeah,
this guy's probably killed more people than the Iridonian plague. Like, why are you antagonizing him?
right? Well, Annie G is just a bad influence on everyone around him. The banter continues, and then the acid elephants. Oh, I wrote acid elephants are cute. Yes.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, so the banter continues between these three, and then it changes scene, and we get to the acid elephants being ridden by the clone troopers and Jar Jar, Sith Jar Jar. And they're adorable. I think that they're absolutely cute, and I love them. And they manage to get the spice back and fight off the guys, and they all
They
just leave.
did.
So they get their spice, and it's awesome. One win for the surprisingly slightly competent Jar Jar.
You think they took a little and they're like, we deserve a bit of this, eh, boys?
Probably.
Toot toot.
They don't know how much is there. It's fine. We go back over to the daring escape, and they decide to try their hand at Olympic pole vaulting.
Oh my god. I was thinking, what would I be thinking if I were Dooku and I saw we're running blaster fire and Anakin picks up a pole and I'm like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? Pole vault? Are you kidding me?
I may not be a spring chicken, but I'm definitely too old for this.
You know, I placed third in Jedi pole vaulting in my youth. Like, what the fuck?
Just force yourself up.
It did seem he pulled a Kenobi and Dooku behind him rather easily. Like there was no resistance. I mean, I guess they're using the Force, but still, it was silly.
Yeah. And now suddenly the Force is nowhere to be seen, and Anakin's trying to hold them up with just his own little meager muscles, because he doesn't actually lift anything. He'll force put his socks on. Like the man has no resistance in his arms.
One of them's not even real.
Right? The crew is trying to find the complex. They're lost in the desert, and they're on their acid elephants. They are like, oh, let's follow the power lines. Thank you for that convenient plot placement. Thank you, because you could be on the other side of the planet, and they would have no idea. Number 2 tells Hondo that Jedi sent an army. Yep, that was definitely them. Definitely wasn't us. Definitely wasn't anybody betraying you. No. So Hondo gets sad about that because he really thought that the Republic would be better. And they are. Look a little closer to home. We go back to the cell, and Hondo loses all chill, calls out the Jedi and separates them from Chocula. And I'm like, well, this is where Chocula's going to make his great escape. He doesn't have 2 Jedi bantering like both sarcastic angels on his shoulders. And they go, and they're getting tortured. They're getting hung off of these like Whoville-like sculptures of light.
The episode took a weird turn for me at that point. I'm like, what? Like writer, why are we doing this part?
Yeah.
I mean, I know that the idea is that, Jar Jar would save the day and all that, but
So Hondo is torturing the Jedi for sending an army, which they didn't. And Jar Jar goes after the Bombat Clankers. What is that?
well, I think they screwed up the subtitle because the episode, remember, a couple episode was Bombad Jedi. That Bombad's a Gungan thing.
Okay.
It's like badass or something.
Oh,
But,
okay.
yeah, they put Bombat in the credits or the subtitles.
Okay. So so the bad Clankers. Clankers is just swoop bike thingies? What are those things?
Clankers usually means a droid adversary of some kind. Usually the battle droids or the super battle droids, but
Okay.
it can be a very general term.
Okay.
They often refer to the Separatist army as like the Clanker army because it's all
Right.
droids.
I did hear that referred to in somewhere in one of these couple of episodes, actually. So they're So they're like, okay, well, we don't have enough hostages now, so let's just take this guy hostage. And the worst thing they could ever do was let Jar Jar onto their biker things, transports. Because he immediately somehow crashes one into another one. He's shooting the other one there, and the guy who's with him, like the clone trooper, he knew. He was like, just wait for it. Just wait. And they're like, wait for what? And it's like, just wait for him to do his thing. And sure enough, chaos ensues. No one knows what's happening. And he's like, well, that's us. Just heads on in.
I have a new theory that Palpatine's controlling Jar Jar through the Force subconsciously.
Yeah, he's like,
Explain a lot.
trip here. Perfect. Excellent. Do this. Jar Jar's klutziness crashes all the ships and the power lines, which stops Obi-Wan and Annie from being tortured. Count Chocula is talking to number one, is taking out number one as they're trying to flee. They're like, okay, well, let's get out of here before he really realizes that we double-crossed him or whatnot. And Count Chocula is having none of that, man. He comes up and he just, like, crushes one of them.
He finally shows a little force.
Yeah. So he takes out number one as they're trying to flee. Jar Jar shows up with the spice, and he's like, hey, guys, just here for the trade.
Misa got the drugs.
You're gonna talk like me.
This is what it do to you.
You should hear Yoda. This is your brain on too much spice. So I like how they're like, I'm assuming that you guys still have Dooku, or else you're not going to get any of this. And in perfect fashion, Dooku's like, bye. Just leaves in the background. I do enjoy the comedic timing on that.
It's like Dooku engineered the whole thing just to kind of inconvenience the Jedi, make them look a little dumb.
Yep. Obi-Wan releases Hondo with a warning. He knows where you live. I'll be fine with this. Get gone, Dooku's.
Start house hunting. Start lair hunting. You need to get
pretty much like leave the planet because he's just gonna waste this entire planet to get to you. Annie doesn't want to admit it, but Jar Jar rescued him, and I get that because everything Jar Jar does is seemingly by accident, or the writers would love us to believe.
I'm telling you, the way Star Wars shows with Andor and Mandalorian, they've gotten so good. They're going to find some way to work Jar Jar back into the timeline. It's going to shock us all.
Yeah, no, not liking it. So they go on the ship, and just the HMS Con Air just flies off into space. This electric hairdryer just right into space. I hate this ship so much. It doesn't make any sense. If it had wings on both sides, like if it had those two extended appendages on each side, that would make sense. But this is just a lopsided ship. There's no physical laws of physics means it should be flying like a V until it gets into space. But the fact that it's flying, no, I'm sorry.
Well, I was kind of surprised Hondo and the Jedi were able to part so amicably, but
I'm not surprised though, because
it made sense.
And Hondo is, he's an honorable guy. So if he sees that that Obi-Wan on behalf of the Jedi are like, we have no quarrel with you, we're good, and they leave, then he's like, oh, okay, and it's good. Like I think that it restores that, because they could have had a very powerful enemy if that did not end the way it did.
Yep, and I can promise you will not. You have not seen the end of Hondo Ohnaka. He becomes something of a fan.
I like him already. Yeah, I can see that, because it's the honorable part that I think really works for me. Like he's very much like so we're gonna do this, and he explains, his reasoning behind it. I mean, as honorable as you can be for somebody trying to swindle somebody out of a whole bunch of money and their winter reserves for spice, because he was like, we can make a quick buck off of this. But he's smart about it.
I remember not liking Hondo the first time I watched these, but now that I'm giving the show proper attention that it deserves, if I'm starting from scratch kind of thing again, Hondo's quote unquote first impression with me was a much better one. That I do like him as a character, so I like him. Like I said, the first watch these when they came out, one a week, whatever, and I wasn't paying enough attention to them, and so Hondo just seemed like an annoying pirate character to me.
Did you like Annie on your first watch through?
I've always been quite indifferent to Anakin, honestly. I dislike him more than I liked him then. I went out as Anakin for Halloween once, but I don't know, as the years have gone by, just honestly, a lot of it in Clone Wars is, in my adult life, I've tried to be a better person, and especially in regards to respect to women. And I just see Anakin doing shit to Ahsoka, like not taking her seriously or patting her on the head and going, "Oh, my little Padawan," and it just chafes me now. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Right? I was able to, when I was younger, I was able to not to pay attention to that, but now I do. And I'm just like, Anakin, fucking be better, man. Come on.
Yeah, for sure.
Any last thoughts on this episode? What did you think of this little arc? You'll find these Clone Wars does a lot of these mini story arcs over several episodes.
It was too soon for another Jar Jar centric episode. We need more Harry and Marv. I would like some Harry and Marv, please.
I'd watch an episode of just them.
I would. Just them trying to figure out how to get off of the conveyor belt and just follow 631's path through until he gets his head inevitably punched off by General Wake and Bake. That would be the episode. Just the last shot is just the head coming clean off with the fist coming through the frame, and then that's it. Credits.
You could really make it a real emotional journey about a battle droid who wants to defect to the Republic and fight with the good guys, and he spends all this time making that about to happen, then he just gets his head punched off by a fucking pothead cyborg.
The end.
The end. Thanks for joining us again, folks. See you again next week for another geeky hangout. This episode brought to you by Flynn Brothers Asteroid Mining. This is Vince Flynn signing off.